Okay. They want to close it? That's good. All right, thank you. Erev Tov, everyone. We all understand the fact that the Mishkan is connected to Shabbat, and that's why the Parsha Vayakel begins with 3 psukim regarding Shabbat. But there's an irony here, almost a contradiction. It says, Lo savaru eish b'chol moshoseichem b'yom HaShabbat. So the Gemara darshans from this, it says, b'chol moshoseichem. What does that mean? So the Gemara darshans from here that in your private homes where you dwell, so lo savaru eish, don't do any of the malachas. But in the Beit HaMikdash, the malachas were permitted, some of them. For instance, regarding the korbanot, the sacrifices, you have to shech the animal. And regarding the menorah, you had to be meiti vesaneros and madlik. And then it says, eish tomi tukad ala mizbeach lo sichbe. And you had to be marich eitzim, the fuel, the wood for the fire. So all of these are malachas that are also on Shabbos. The Gemara extends it by telling us that there's a halachic rule, ein shvus b'mikdash, that in the Beis HaMikdash, none of the surim of the Rabbanon were present. So it's machlokes in the Gemara, whether muktzah, for instance, is midaraisa or midarabbanon. But according to those that hold it was midarabbanon, there's no muktzah in the Beis HaMikdash. And there is no Isur of Carmelis in the Beis HaMikdash and carry. So isn't that somewhat ironic that if the whole derivation of the Mishkan and of the malachas of the Mishkan stems from Shabbat, and Shabbat is intermingled closely with the Mishkan, that's our definition of what is a malacha, that the only place by Klal Yisrael, so to speak, where the malachas were performed would be in the Beit HaMikdash, would be in the Mishkan itself. And there's a special korban musaf on Shabbos. Okay, we can understand korban tomid. We want to have the continuity should continue, okay. But here we're adding musaf, we are adding korbanos on Shabbos. We're adding extra malachas that have to be done that were not part of it beforehand. And then Shabbat Shabbaton, we talk about Yom HaKippurim. Yom HaKippurim, the avoda that we read, the Kohen ran, he shechted, then he unchained, was tovel, all of these shilas. Everything that he did is impinges on the concept of not doing malacha on Shabbos. And here the malachas exist publicly, proudly, so to speak, without any inhibition. So the Mefarshim discuss this. why this should be. One shot is that pretty obvious is that avoda is doche Shabbos. The avoda and the Beis Hamikdash, you have sometimes that mitzvahs are doche other mitzvahs. Some want to say that this is mitzvahs asay, the korbanos, and therefore it's doche the lavin of Shabbos. That's the doche lav. Positive commandment can be stronger and obviated the necessity for fulfilling the lav. So the tefse doche losase. But philosophically, that's not an answer. I mean, that's a technical answer. The lav of shchita is nidche by the mitzvah asay that you have to be makriv the korban. But the Meforshim point out that this was only done by public korbanos. There are no private korbanos on Shabbos. Cannot bring a shlomim, a toda, an osham, a chatos. And none of those korbanos were brought on Shabbos. The only korban that was brought was the korban tomid, twice a day, and the korban musaf for Shabbos. Those were the korbanos that were brought. And on Yom Tov, on Yom Tov, shchita is muter, but there were other malachas. So again, the only korbanos were the public korbanos, not the private korbanos. So the Meforshim say from this a philosophic idea. Private korbanos have a private purpose. Person brings a korban chatas or a korban osham, it's because he wants to be forgiven for his sins. The Novi says, "Me'asos cheftzecha b'yom kodshi, in koros al Shabbos oneg, Gdosh Yisrael mechubad." Don't do your private things on Shabbos. So bringing a private korban would not be considered permissible because he's doing a private thing. The person is bringing the korban for himself or herself, as the case may be. Shabbos takes precedence over private needs, over private goals, no matter how holy. I remember once someone asked me, and I think it was in Miami, that Shabbos is the only day of the week that he has free time to think. And he has very good ideas. And he has chidushim and Torah. But if he doesn't write them up, he forgets Saturday night with Abdullah, it's all out the window. So he wants a heter to write it. It's a private need. Private need is never doche Shabbos. And therefore, that's the idea of all the malachas. We don't do work, we don't have money, we don't, the Yisurim, the Rabbanon, etc. All of that is because, it's only private to you. It's to a certain degree a selfishness on your part, a self-centeredness on your part. Shabbos is a universal thing. Shabbos Shabbos is a universal concept. It's Kaviyachol, the Rabbanu Shalom's day. When it's the Rabbanu Shalom's day, my private needs are not only secondary, but they're basically unimportant. And that's why we find that Chazal were able to build on the 39 Malachas and the Ovos, all sorts of other structures that are the Rabbanon that became, because that to build the fence around Shabbos, because that's the public celebration of the creation of the world, of the fact that the Ribono Shel Olam created us. Mashain came with the public korbanos. The public korbanos are a fulfillment, so to speak, of God's will himself. The same God that told you to rest on Shabbos told you to shech the korban on Shabbos. And that's an important concept, because not all things in life are crystal clear. I remember I saw it once in the house of a great Rav, great Lithuanian Rav, that two ladies came in the house. They had to pick up something from him, a letter. And one of the women inadvertently thrust out her hand to the Rav to shake it. And he shook her hand. The other lady said to her out loud, she said, "You don't shake hands with a rabbi, you insulted him." So she said, "Rabbi, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it." And, she was really very flustered and embarrassed. And he answered her very sweetly. He said, "The same God that told me not to shake your hand told me not to embarrass you." So the Shabbos is that lesson. That it's the same God that told us, "Lo sevaru eish b'chol moshvaseichem b'yom HaShabbos." Here we're going to do the exact opposite, because the problem is not what you do. The problem is, do you do what I tell you to do, what I instructed you to do? Not to really philosophize too greatly, therefore. Not to substitute the human rational understandings of things for godly advice and instruction. That's the idea that the Torah always tells us about chukim and mishpatim. So a chok is something that we don't understand. Mishpat is something that we think we understand, even though we don't understand it either, to its full dimensions and depths. But at least we think we have a handle on it. We think we understand why you shouldn't steal. Well, in effect, if you think about it, it's why not, We have a case in the Gemara in Bava Basra. It's called Kol Diolim Gvar. Two people have a dispute regarding a boat. We can't figure out who it belongs to. They have equal proofs or no proofs or any. We can't figure out what to do. So the Gemara says, Kol Diolim Gvar. Rashi says, whoever is stronger should take it away. Taisus disagrees with Rashi. Rabbeinu Tam says that. How could you say that? Means that Kol Diolim Gvar is he'll work better to get proofs. If it's really his, he'll find a way to prove it's his. But Rashi says it simply. He's the stronger one, takes it away. It says, how can you take it away? The answer is we always live with this dichotomy. And therefore, whatever the halacha says, whatever the mitzvah is, that's what we do. So it's the same God that told us not to have private korbanos, told us to have public korbanos. He told us to operate the Beit HaMikdash on Shabbos as well. So this is a concept that's very delicate and sophisticated. And people would find it hard to deal with. But that's the same concept of Pikuach Nefesh, Shabbos, the same concept of many things. Rabim, all sorts of different concepts, because nothing is ever just one thing. It's always a combination of different things that sometimes contradict each other. So the Gemara used the Mishkan and Shabbos as the illustration of this concept and of this sophistication, and how we should be able to view all the mitzvahs in their entirety. Rabbi Chananya ben Akasha Omer Otzakori Baruch Hu L'Zakos Es Yisrael L'Ficha Hirba Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenamar Adonai Chavei Saman Tzidkei Yaviu Torah Yaviu.